Now that we have a better idea of what we're going to build, let's start doing a little bit of project setup. Now, on the last project we worked on, we made use of Parcel. Remember, Parcel took in an HTML document, saw that we were trying to include a TypeScript script tag, and it automatically compiled that TypeScript code for us and made it available inside the browser. In this application, I want to try doing things just a little bit different. So instead of running our code inside the browser, I want to try running all this sorting stuff with Node.js instead. So we're not going to use Parcel here. We absolutely could if we wanted to continue working in the browser, but instead I'd want to just figure out how to work more directly with the TypeScript compiler. So we're going, like I said, we're going to do things just a little bit differently here just to learn some more. To get started, I'm going to first stop my running Parcel server with a Command-C. I'm then going to go back up to a workspace directory, and I'll make a new project directory called sort. I'll then change into that directory and start up my code editor inside there. Once my editor has started up, I'm going to make a new TypeScript file inside my root project directory called index.ts. And then inside of here, I'm just going to add in a quick console log that says, "Hi there." All right, so I want to first begin by just giving you a quick reminder on how the TypeScript compiler works. So now we've saved this file, we can flip back over to our terminal, and inside the sort directory, we can run tsc and then the name of that file, index.ts. So when we run that, TypeScript is going to compile that file and then spit out a index.js file. So essentially it just takes the name of that file, copies it, turns all the code in it into JavaScript, and then turns the extension into .js instead. So now inside of our root project directory, we can see index.js. And it contains the JavaScript equivalent of our TypeScript code, which right now is pretty darn similar. Now, as you might imagine, every time we compile this index.ts file, we're going to end up with another JS file inside the same directory. Chances are, if we just had all of our source code inside this root project folder, things would get really messy really quickly. So let's try organizing our project a little bit better. I'm going to try creating a directory inside of here called src, and I'm going to put all of my TypeScript source code into that folder. So I'm going to move index.ts inside there. Then I want to try creating a new folder inside of our project directory as well called build. Make sure you create this directory inside the root project folder. It should not be inside of src. If you just created that build directory using VS Code, sometimes VS Code kind of sticks stuff into the existing directory that you might have already selected. So see how I have it selected right here? If I create a new folder right here, it's going to be stuffed right into src. So again, just make sure you did not put build into src. All right, so the idea of build is just to organize all of our compiled code. So once we compile index.ts, rather than sticking the result into the src directory as well, or into our root project folder, I instead want to get the compiled file placed into the build directory instead, like so. So the build directory will contain all of our compiled code, and we will basically know we don't really need to ever mess with that folder. And we are only going to edit the code inside of src. So let's figure out how we can configure our TypeScript compiler to now work with these two separate directories. To do so, we need to generate a file called a tsconfig.json file. This is a TypeScript compiler configuration file that we can use to customize how the compiler behaves. To generate a tsconfig file at the terminal, we will run tsc --init, like so. And then we will be told that we created a tsconfig file. So let's go open that up and see what we are working with. So here's that file. Inside of here, you are going to see a ton of different options. So these are all options we can use to customize the compiler. Anytime that we run the tsc compiler at our terminal, it's going to automatically check to see if we have a tsconfig inside of here. If we do, it's going to use these settings to customize the compiler. So in order to tell TypeScript or the compiler to get all of our code out of the src directory and then place all the results inside of the build directory, we're going to find two settings inside of here called outdir and rootdir. So rootdir is going to be a relative path reference to the directory that holds all of our source code. So I'm going to uncomment that line and say all of our source code can be found in the /src directory. Then the out dir is where we want to place all of our compiled code. So I'm going to uncomment that, and I'm going to say take all of our compiled code and put it into that build folder, like so. Once I've done all this, I'm going to save this file. I'm then going to flip back over to my terminal, and then once over here, I can now just run tsc by itself. If I just run tsc, that is going to find that tsconfig file that we just generated, and it's going to say, oh, okay, I need to take all the code out of this directory, src. I need to compile all of it and put all of it into the build directory. So if we now run tsc like so, we'll get kicked right back over to the command line, but we can now look into the build directory, and there still is that index.js file. Well, I kind of had dragged ours inside there, so I'm going to delete index.js really quickly. Let's try running that command one more time and just make sure that the compilation actually worked as expected. Okay, so there's one more time, and now inside of build, yep, I see my file right there. Now, a very easy way to make this a little bit easier on ourselves would be to run tsc with one additional flag of -w. -w means watch all the files inside of the root dir, or essentially the src directory for us. So anytime we change any of our code inside of this src directory, the compiler is going to automatically recompile everything and stick it all into build for us. So that just means that we're not going to have to run tsc again and again and again and again. So I'm going to run that. And now we'll see a very different interface here. We're being told, okay, we're going to continuously compile all of our code. So now if we flip back over to index.ts and start making some changes inside of here, like let's say, how about add a function called log something. And, whatever, just put some code in there. If we then save that, we can go back over to our terminal. In the background, when I save that file, this thing automatically recompiled. You can actually see that it says file change detected. And if we now flip back over to our build index.js, we will see the updated source code inside of here. All right, so that's pretty much it. So once again, we can configure the TypeScript compiler. These are a lot of tongue twister words, by creating a tsconfig.json file. And we create that by running tsc --init at our command line. So now that we've got a little bit better build process here, let's take a quick pause and do one last quick update in the next video as well.